challenge was nothing less than achieving a good communication level of a new language within 6 weeks. For most people, this would require years of time. It is important that I started out with no knowledge of the language, had no Spanish speakers around me, and I spent only my free time on the studies. At the end of my 6-week challenge, I had a couple of conversations with native Spanish speakers, and I asked them, when do they think I started learning Spanish?
¿Cuándo crees que empecé a aprender español?
¿Un año?
Más de 2 años.
Más de 2 años.
2 años, 3 años.
3 años.
3 años.
Mínimo 6 meses. Mínimo.
Es una experimenta con español para mí, porque empecé a aprender español hace 6 semanas.
¿En serio?
6 semanas, en serio.
Most of them were really surprised when I told them that I started only 6 weeks ago, or some of them didn't even believe what I said.
Hát ez tényleg 6 hét alatt termelted ki magadból? Mert...
Ezt 6 hét alatt kipréseltem.
I posted this same video on my Hungarian channel, and in a year it reached almost 80,000 views, and I'm getting a lot of very good feedback to this video, so I decided to shoot this video in English too, because it could be very useful for you. In this video I would like to show you how it was possible for me to reach a Spanish level that people thought that I had been learning Spanish for years, although it was just 6 weeks. We're gonna see what techniques and what strategies I used for Spanish learning. I think that it will be very useful for you, especially if you are just beginning with Spanish. But I think it's not only true for Spanish, but also for any new languages. I'm gonna talk a little bit about my language learning experiences. I will also talk about some other factors that I think were very important in this Spanish learning experience, because it's not just how you learn Spanish, but also how you approach learning itself. I think it's also very important. And at the end of this video, you will see some conversations that I had with Spanish speakers. My name is Gábor, I am from Hungary, and in the very beginning of this video, I would like to mention that please don't judge this video based on my English level. Although this video is about language learning, I didn't use these techniques when I was learning English. In school and when you are a child, you get what you get. You have not much control about it. And of course you have, for example, bad pronunciation habits or bad habits with grammar. I don't know. Of course I have that. It was just a little bit of disclaimer that please don't judge it too strictly and too seriously. Okay, I'm just aware of many of my mistakes. And in this video, I will not talk about how to master a new language. I will talk about that if you are in a 0 level, so you are a very beginner, then what helped me to approach the language in a way that is very efficient and get me to a communication level. The main reason why I started with this challenge, it was because I was telling to my friends many times that, oh, it's easy to learn a new language. You can do it within a year, you can do it even in some months, so it shouldn't be that hard. And I was quite confident, because I've read a lot about it, that it can be done really fastly and really efficiently. But if I think about it, I've never actually proved it. So I thought that it is high time to show to them, and also, of course, to myself, that is it actually possible if you use these techniques and you are really focusing on the language? And yeah, my answer, it is, if you are using the good strategies and techniques. Let's take a look to my language learning experiences, because I think it's important and it's interesting. Maybe you can relate to many of my problems that I had with languages. I learned English in elementary school, also in high school. I was in a bilingual class, and in the last few years I've been watching a lot of English on YouTube especially. So as a Hungarian, I get quite a lot of compliments to my English, but I'm still aware of the lot of mistakes that I'm doing. But if I look at English, I've put many hours into English for sure. My second language in high school was German. Yeah, with German I had a lot of struggle. Although I took the intermediate language exam in high school, I never really felt confident about my German. And I went to Austria for 9 months. And there, in the first, I think, 4 or 5 months, I understood very little. It was very difficult for me to get the accent of the Austrians, and I had a hard time with German. After I left Austria, they said that, oh, my German is good, but still, I know that I cannot express myself as I want to in German, and I still have a lot of difficulties to understand German. I had a little experience with Slovak. With Slovak, I've already used a lot of good techniques because I was reading about how to learn languages, and that led to some success. But Slovak, it was tricky because Slovak language is very difficult. The grammar structure is like, oh my god, it's crazy. I learned Slovak for 4-5 months, but I wouldn't say that I reached a good communication level. It was just tough. So I can absolutely identify the difficulties of any language learner. It's like you just cannot talk in that language. You cannot express yourself, you have struggle with learning new words and especially remembering the words that you've already learned. For me, one of the biggest challenge is to understand the native speakers when they are speaking really fastly, and also the grammar structures could be really difficult. But the good news is that there are solutions to these problems, and if you are using the right techniques, then you will improve much faster. And it's very important because if you see results, it will keep you motivated. It's really important. If you see that, okay, I'm getting better, then it will be the fuel of your motivation. Not just in the short run, but also in the long run. I chose Spanish because simply I like the Spanish people who I met. I like their culture, their country, also the weather in Spain. Right now I am in Malaga and it's incredibly good weather also in February. And in the future, if I'm planning a bit more travel around the world, Spanish is a very good language to have in your pocket, because many Spanish-speaking countries, people don't speak that well English. I'm experiencing that here in Malaga. So I think it's a useful language, and I also have my own motivation to learn it. I think it's important to don't choose a language simply because, it's very useful, but you hate it. If you're gonna hate that language, it's not a good start. In my opinion, it's also very important to have clear goals. My main goal with this challenge is not to reach, for example, a B1 or B2 level in Spanish. So it's not language exam, it's much more oriented towards communication. And I know that it's not so easily measurable. I tried my best to measure it. I tried to speak with natives, but it's important to see that I'm really heading towards communication. I will also have very clear goals about how much time I will put into learning. I will talk about that a bit later. One of the big inspiration for this language learning experience was a little documentary that was made by Connor Grooms. I think the title is Spanish in a Month. So he reached in a month a quite good communication level. I was quite shocked and inspired at the same time. So I reached out to him and asked him that what was the main things that he focused on in this short period of time.
There's basically 3 most important activities when it comes to learning Spanish, and that's a lot of one-on-one time with a native speaker, ideally with a teacher.
Yes.
An SRS, so you're doing flashcards. So the point of flashcards is to basically get vocabulary into your head so that when you're in a conversation, you can remember it. You're not going to completely learn a word just from the flashcard, but it gets you to the point where you can remember it. So once you actually use it, that's when you're actually going to remember it. And then focusing on the sounds really early, because ultimately language is just sound. So if you don't get the sounds down early on, basically everything else that you do, you're kind of screwed. So those are the three things that I focused on, and those are the most important activities.
Let's begin with vocabulary. I think that everybody is familiar with this problem. It's okay that you, for example, you learn 20 new words a day, but the question is how you manage to do that for 40, 50 years to learn these new words and at the same time remembering the words that you've already learned. That's the challenge. This is where a program called ANKI comes into play, because with this program you are able to create flashcards, and it uses a spaced repetition system, which is very useful for learning new words. It uses some space between you are repeating the words again and again. I don't want to go into details. I take a short video about spaced repetition system in the description, and if you understand how spaced repetition system works, then you will immediately understand why it works. In this program, I've created my own flashcards. I not just used simple Spanish and English translations. I did a lot more. I always searched for the pronounced Spanish word, also an example sentence in Spanish, and this example sentence in Spanish had also the pronunciation on the flashcard. And I also used two different kinds of cards. One was for training my ears, so it was a blank card where I had to recognize what does the native speaker says, so it was a really good training to catch up with pronunciation. I will do a whole video about how I used ANKI. I put the link in the video description, but very briefly I try to show it to you. So for example, this one is a blank card, which is good for listening skills. If I press the button R, then the audio is playing.
Te acompaño.
Te acompaño. My task is to recognize what the guy says, what the native speaker says, and in the back there are many information. First, what I'm trying to do is to connect the acompañar, the word, with the picture. I don't want to translate it. I really want to see the picture and the word at the same time, so I try to learn with images. I also see the pronounced sentence that we heard before. Again, if I press the button R, I can hear it again.
Te acompaño.
Te acompaño. Always use example sentences if you learn new words, because you can see how that given word works in a sentence, which is also very good for grammar. And what I'm also doing, I try to repeat this sentence many times. Maybe it seems a little silly, but in this way I get the feeling of the rhythm of the language, the speed, the melody. And I'm learning a lot, which is good for listening skills.
Te acompaño.
Te acompaño. Okay, and I can decide how difficult it was. I will talk about this in a later video, but this is the power of spaced repetition system and ANKI, so check out that video. And the other type of flashcard was always for recalling the word. So it was an image or an English word there that I had to recall in Spanish. I think there's a big difference between remembering a word, so you can recognize what does that Spanish word mean, and between recalling a word, so you can name, for example, an object in Spanish language. Recalling is much more powerful. And this one is an example for the other type of card. Here I need to recall the Spanish word. So in this way I don't strengthen my passive vocabulary but the active vocabulary. And if I go to show the answer,
Yo te apoyaré.
Yo te apoyaré.
Yo te apoyaré.
Yo te apoyaré. Again, what I'm doing, I try to connect this word with the picture, which is really useful. There's the example sentence, what I'm also trying to repeat many times.
Yo te apoyaré. Yo te apoyaré.
I'm taking care where I'm putting the stress. For example, it's not apoyare, it's not apoyare, it's apoyaré. It's important. And one thing that I would like to add, when I'm repeating this sentence, I know what it means, and I try to imagine a situation in my head where I can use this Spanish sentence. So, for example, a friend needs some help, and I can say to him,
Yo te apoyaré.
Yo te apoyaré. In this way, it's not a translation, but it's an imagination of this sentence where it could be used. This flashcard system is full of many useful words and sentences and pictures, everything. The most commonly used 750 words in Spanish is there with the sentences.
Pártelo a la mitad.
Pártelo a la mitad.
With this flashcard system, many things were happening at the same time. I learned new words daily. I could remember the words that I learned previously. And of course, as I said, there was the pronunciation of the word and the pronunciation of the sentence. So it was a very good training for my ears. And I also repeated the sentences in a way as the native speaker said. So I really got used to the rhythm and the feeling of this language.
Again, if you are interested, check out the video or write me an email. I put an email address in the description.
When you are learning a new language, you just need to get into this beginner mindset. Many times when we are making mistakes and we have failures in life, we just don't like that. But when you are learning a new language, you need to make mistakes. Connor, in his movie, he demonstrates really well this idea that you should focus on communication over perfection.
So let's talk about the thing holding back millions of language learners. Perfection. With any language, there are two main milestones: communication and perfection, fluency. In 30 days, you can go from nothing to expressing almost any idea. You can communicate almost any idea after 30 focused days. The mistake most people make is they try to be perfect. And when you try to be perfect, this is how far you can get in 30 days. Get to here first and be able to express any idea, and then worry about refining that towards perfection.
So for conversations, I used Baselang. Here for a monthly fee, you can take as many classes you want. And of course, if you just take like 2 classes per week, it will be very expensive for you. But if you are serious into language learning, it's a great tool. You can have Skype lessons with teachers usually from South America, from Venezuela, so they can help you exactly with the thing that you need, which is speaking with a native speaker. In the first 2 weeks, I was building my vocabulary. I didn't use Baselang. I started after that. But after that, it was really good to have this Baselang program because it really forced me to speak every day in Spanish. And of course, what is the point of learning a new language if you don't use it? A language is for making friends, making relationships. And I had a lot of lessons with one guy from Venezuela, and we also had great conversations. And I know that if I go there, for example, I visit him, that I have a friend in Venezuela, which is just a great feeling. So language is about connections. You need to start to speak from the very beginning. It's an important one. In the meantime, the sun is making my face fucking yellow. Hello, dog. Later on, I plan to make a little video about how I used Baselang and what I suggest to you. If you are interested, please subscribe to this channel. With Baselang, my goal was to hit 1 hour every day. So without any excuse, I had to talk 1 hour daily in Spanish. For grammar and to understand the language structure, I mainly used Language Transfer. Language Transfer is an audio course, which is free and a very good audio course. It is available on SoundCloud. I put a description in the link. No, I put a link in the description.
And the way we're learning the language is really dissecting it to its smallest pieces and then building it up together through a series of mental exercises in a way that makes sense for that specific language. I mean, to speak about the language transfer project and the methodology is to teach a language a lot of content in record time, but it's not just about the content. That's just half of the journey. The other half of the journey is the way you learn how to think about language.
I found it very useful, so I listened it 2 times, and I also listened the Espanol English version, where the guy teaches a Spanish speaker to English. So I spent quite a lot of time with language transfer. It was perfect for me because when I was traveling, when I was walking, I could listen to it, and it really taught me how to think in Spanish. For further comprehension training, I used mainly YouTube and Netflix and some music. I think these are incredible, useful sources for language learning. I put a YouTube link in the description. I found a course which has some episodes where a woman teaches Spanish, but not in English. She teaches it in Spanish. So everything is in Spanish. Also, the explanations are in Spanish. And when you are not speaking Spanish, it's quite strange and weird. But I felt when I was listening it, I understood what she wants to say with different grammar structures. And I liked it a lot. On Netflix, I watched a series called Gran Hotel. It's a Spanish series in Netflix. What I did was I first watched one episode with Spanish audio and English subtitle, and after that immediately I watched it again with Spanish audio again, of course, and with Spanish subtitle. In this way I already knew what the story was, and I could focus more on the language, and I could really pick up more words. I think music doesn't require much explanation. With Spanish music you have tons of options. I think it's just fun, and in my opinion it's a good idea to learn 2 or 3 songs in memory, and in this way you can pick up the fast and rapid speaking, and it could be beneficial for your pronunciation for sure.
Voy a reír, voy a gozar, vivir mi vida, la 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 la.
Let's look at the number of hours that I put into this project. As I said, it is difficult to measure how my communication is, and it's not a good goal. For goal setting, I believe in numbers, and if I use the good methods, I trust that the results will come. In the first 2 weeks, I started with 2.5 hours of studying, and when I felt that I am progressing well and I knew that this project will be awesome, I added on it, and for the following 4 weeks, I learned almost 5 hours daily. That means that I spent about 160 hours practicing the language. If I break it down, this meant 70 hours of vocabulary training with ANKI, about 30 hours of Skype lessons. I listened the language transfer twice and the Spanish version once, that was 35 hours, and I watched YouTube and Netflix that added up 25 hours. And it was in my free time.
I have to say that it was very intense, and I just had to give up some other activities, and it also made some struggles sometimes. So, just to mention again, this project looks like that I only learn after 5 p.m. Right now, I managed to catch a minor cold. I sucked with some emails today, so it's not that much fun. In the evening, I started to make flashcards. After that, I had the Skype lesson, and soon it is 11 p.m. and I still have to learn the vocabulary. So sometimes it sucks. Let's take a look at some other factors besides language learning that I think that really helped me to succeed. In an interview, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, who are the 2 richest men in the world, they are talking about the importance of focus. I'm a big believer of deep and focused work, and I did that with my Spanish learning. So when I was learning Spanish, I was really learning Spanish. I didn't do anything else. To improve my focus, I did meditation every day. It's a great way to keep your mind healthy and also to strengthen that focus. With such an intense project like this, it's very important to keep your body healthy. So my goal was to hit 10,000 steps every day, and during my walks I could listen still some Spanish, and in these days I went swimming 3 times per week, which just also very good for learning, of course. I feel it is my personal mission to point at the importance of ergonomics, because all that sitting is just poisonous to your body. Unfortunately, I know this because I had a spine surgery, so I knew that it's very important for me to change positions all the time when I was learning. I was on my stomach, sitting on the floor, kneeling, standing, walking in the house. The point is not to stuck in the same position. I figured out many little exercises when I needed a little break from studying. Here, for example, I throw the ball, kick with my leg up, which is a nice stretch for my hamstring, and with the other foot I kick the ball to my hands. Or I played a bit with some juggling. These may seem very little nuances to you, but I know that without them I would have failed with my task much more easily. For daily motivation I chose Gary Vaynerchuk. Not much, just 5-10 minutes per day. To be honest, I just love this guy. Or at least his content.
Or why you can't, because, or what, but it's just not true. Because if anybody ever did it, then you can too. The biggest poison in us is regret.
Soon, as I end this video, you can see as I speak in Spanish. To be honest, I'm quite happy about the level that I reached, because the people that I talked to, they thought that I learned Spanish for years already, and I was able to have conversations, which is the most important part. I would like to tell you why it is worth to subscribe to this channel. I plan to make similar challenges in other languages, and I'm gonna try to share as much useful information as I can. Right now, I am focusing to my Hungarian channel, but whenever I have a bigger project like this, I will also do an English version. Hence, the next video maybe takes a while, so please hit the bell next to the subscribe button if you don't want to miss it. I'm not only interested in languages, of course, I have other ideas where I also would like to take challenges. For example, I really want to try what could happen if I tried to learn a new instrument in 6 weeks with such an intensity that I learned Spanish, and some training or movement related topics are also on the top of my list. For example, how to improve my mobility. So again, if you are interested, please subscribe, hit the bell, and maybe write a comment that what would you like to see in the future. Also, if you like this video, it is a great support for the future of the channel.
Entonces, ¿de dónde eres?
Madrid.
¿Madrid?
Sí.
Me gusta Madrid.
Sí.
He estado una vez en Madrid y me gustaría vivir en Madrid 2 o 3 meses en el futuro.
Sí.
Sí, eso es muy bien, muy bien. ¿Y cuándo llegaste a Budapest?
Hace 2 días.
Hace 2 días.
2 días. Jueves, miércoles.
Miércoles.
Sí.
¿Y
sí.
¿Cómo te parece?
Muy bonita la ciudad.
¿Bonita?
Sí. Tiene muchas cosas.
¿Qué viste?
Hemos visto el Parlamento. ¿Por qué está grabando? ¿Es para alguien?
Solo, ok.
Sí.
Estoy aprendiendo español en este momento y me gustaría hacer un poco video.
Ajá.
¿Dónde?
¿Tú eres estudiante?
Estudio.
Sí.
Estudio en la casa. En la casa, solo por...
¿Y sabes inglés?
Sí.
¿Inglés hablas?
Sí, hablo inglés. Y soy húngaro.
Húngaro.
¿Cuándo crees que empecé a aprender español? ¿Qué empecé yo? Cerca.
¿Un año?
¿Un año?
¿Un año?
¿Cómo es mi español?
Bueno. Más de 2 años.
Más de 2 años. Ok. Es una experimenta con español para mí, porque empecé a aprender español hace 6 semanas.
¿En serio?
6 semanas, ¿en serio? Es muy intenso.
Sí.
Muy intenso, pero me gusta el idioma y me gusta la gente, entonces me gusta aprender español. ¿De dónde eres?
Somos de España.
¿De España?
De Cataluña, Tarragona, concretamente.
¿Cataluña?
Sí, Tarragona.
Okay.
Cerca de Barcelona.
¿Qué es tu favorito fútbol club?
El club es Nàstic.
¿Nàstic? No conozco.
No, es de segunda división. Mi primer equipo es Nàstic, el segundo el Barça.
Sí, Barcelona. Ok. ¿Y cuándo llegaste en Budapest?
El miércoles.
¿El miércoles?
Miércoles, Wednesday.
¿Y cómo te parece Budapest?
Pues es muchos monumentos, muy bonito, hace mucho frío.
¿Mucho frío?
Bueno, frío.
Bueno,
sí. ¿Hace frío para ti?
Para mí, sí.
Me han dicho que hay días que hace más frío.
Ajá. En este momento, ¿cuál degra en España?
Grados. Pues debe haber pues unos 18, 15, 18 grados. Aquí estamos a 10.
Más caliente,
Sí,
caliente.
sí, un poquito
Aquí,
más,
aquí.
sí.
Ajá.
¿Cómo estás practicando aprender idioma en corto tiempo?
Pienso, es muy importante. Las tres cosas que es más importante, en mi opinión, es buena pronunciación. Segundo es deberías aprender con suficiente y eficiente palabras. Por ejemplo, hay un programa que es posible aprender palabras muy eficientemente. Sí. Tercero, tienes que hablar mucho.
Sí, es verdad.
Look, there's nothing special in what I did. I simply focused on the things that work. Many speaking with native speakers, I made memory cards for the efficient learning of new words. I took care of my pronunciation in the beginning. I learned the most important words and grammar structures. I focused on communication over perfection, and of course, I put the time and energy into it. Even if you don't learn that intense as I did in these 6 weeks, but with these methods and with persistence, you can also reach a level much faster than you've ever thought before. Please like this video, share with others, and maybe comment what other project you would like to see, or what techniques or language learning strategies you really liked. And yeah, finally, there's some info about my ANKI flashcards in the description. See you in the next project. Peace.